For the grognards, if I say Solmania, I actually mean to say Solamnia. If I say Kalaman, I actually mean to say Kalaman. If I mispronounce something or anything else, I actually mean for it to sound exactly the way you want it to sound. GameMasters here, and today we can finally start spilling some beans about Dragonlance for 5th edition. We have the book, the collector's edition book, which is super silky and features Lord Soth on the cover, and the deluxe edition book, which is reflective and also super shiny. But also, too, we are going to look at the board game. First off, however, I want to share the disclaimer. You guys know I love that part. It reads, "The dragon armies cannot ensure that owners of this book will not have their lives repurposed in the service of the Dragon Queen's glorious will. Promises to the contrary should be considered best-case scenarios, not statements of certainty. Thank you for supporting the dragon armies and a cataclysmic bright future for all of Krynn." And for those of you savvy enough, will notice the table of contents here. The book itself is made up of 7 chapters, but it's actually a bit more than that. The first part details how to use the book, a very brief history of Krynn, and defines what the dragon armies are, as well as what the War of the Lance is. It also details out the gods that appear in this setting. There's a hidden chapter that says, if you're enjoying this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. It really helps with that YouTube algorithm, and I thank you kindly for that. Okay. There is no hidden chapter, but I printed it out on a piece of paper, so now it's a chapter in my copy. And I do thank you. Chapter 1 covers character creation and introduces what the Kender are. And we did a look at what the Kender were in an old edition. I'll do a video in a bit later comparing what we talked about in that version versus how it's different from the one in 5th edition. It also covers feats and backgrounds and the Knights of Solmania. Knights of Solamnia and the Mages of High Sorcery, as well as a Sorcerer subclass. The remaining chapters cover the adventure itself, and I'm going to be very brief when covering that material. I'm not a big fan of spoiling adventures because I know that both players and DMs will be watching, and I just don't want to ruin the story for them. There are also 5 appendices. Appendices. The first one covers new gear and magic items, one being the Fargab, which is kind of a walkie-talkie type device, but we'll cover the gear and items in a future video. The next appendix covers various monsters, friends and foes, and yep, this is where we're going to find Lord Soth, and we'll talk about him in depth in a future video as well. Appendix C looks at sidekicks, and like in other books, there is also an appendix that looks at some concept art, and the last one is the map of Ancelon itself. Of course, there's also a large pull-out map too. What does disappoint me is that there is no index, and I just wonder if Wizards is keeping the index out to drive people over to the PDF versions of the books. I do admit that searching a PDF is super easy, but I'd still rather have a physical copy. Each of the books are the same except for the cover. There is also a massive DM screen that will have all the cool important elements in it that a DM will need to run the specific adventure in this book. The DM screen comes with the deluxe edition version. And this brings us to the board game itself. As best I can tell, there's no mention of it in the main book, so there's really nothing that drives you or forces you to use it. It's totally optional, but it's going to be one of the main focuses that I want to explore in another video that will air this weekend here on the channel. But I do want to give a quick overview. It has these cardboard chits. They remind me of the old Avalon Hill games. They always had lots of cardboard to punch out, and that's going to be a lot of fun. We also have a scenario book, the rule book. There are map tiles, double-sided, some miniatures, and speaking of miniatures, my friend and fellow YouTuber Fry Minis is also cruising through these books, and I highly encourage you guys to check his channel out, then come back to mine. But I'll leave a link down below to his content. And hey, Eric, Are you going to paint your minis? I'd love to paint mine, but as you know, my eyes, they just don't work with stuff up close anymore, so I can't really see the stuff in full detail to paint them. And I fear whatever I do paint, it just end up to be blobs of very strange color. But Fry Minis, if you do decide to paint yours, let me know. I'd love to see how they turn out. Filling out the rest of the box are dice, army counters, and cards. And we'll dive deep into exactly how these all fit to play the board game and how it mixes with the adventure in the book itself in our next video. I need to greatly thank Wizards of the Coast for sending over these review copies, and as a reminder, the books themselves come out on December 6th, but if you pre-order now from D&D Beyond, you can actually get early access to the content on November 22nd via D&D Beyond. If you'd rather just have a hard copy, I'll leave a link down below in the description as to where you can order yours at. I'm looking forward to diving in deeper to everything here, but I'm mostly excited about how the board game works. As I mentioned, my buddy Fry Minis is also covering the books, so if you're itching to see stuff before I can churn out some content, be sure to check out his channel. Give him some love, but then come back here to my channel because it needs love too. And if you want to keep up with all of the material I'll be covering with Dragonlance, be sure to bookmark my Dragonlance playlist here. It's only going to grow as I add more videos. What's the #1 main thing you are mostly wanting to see from Dragonlance right now? Chat with me about it down in the comments section, and until next our paths cross, may your cardboard chits not rip.